Hello everybody, I have a first question. It's supposed to be in English. Who wants this to be in English? Okay, we'll be in English then. Good. So my name is Thomas Bidaux. I'm French, I live in England, and I work in the video game industry. But I'm not here to talk about video games. I'm here to talk about my obsession. A couple of years ago, the crowdfunding happened, made a big effect on the video game industry, and I loved it. I loved giving them money for their games, and getting obsessed with something and being someone who works with numbers. In my day-to-day job, I like to understand trends beyond, they raised $3 million, and they raised $5 million, and they're very big, and Payball made $10 million, and all that kind of stuff. That's good. I'm happy for them. But for 99% of us, it's kind of useless. Just to show you the degree of my obsession, that's my profile on Kickstarter. And to be honest, it's not that much. Now I've studied the numbers. There's people who have backed, like real people, have backed more than 2,000 projects on one platform. But it's something that, it's definitely an itch I have to scratch. And so to understand the phenomenon better and looking at the numbers and diving into what it means for 99% of the backers and the creators, I wanted to look at numbers. So I work with a company in Nantes called Potion of Wit, who I'm working with on a regular basis on other projects. And we look at the biggest crowdfunding platform, the one that was easiest for us to analyze, and we scrape the data out of it. So we looked at Kickstarter, which is one platform among many that has a number of things that are specifics, and one that's actually very good and very well performing for video games, which was my main initial interest. And so scraping the data from Kickstarter, we pile it all together. We look at all the projects, whether they're successful or not. We look at the profile of the backers. We look at who's doing what and all that kind of stuff. And I think my purpose is to kind of explain what I see are the state of crowdfunding through Kickstarter, giving that the biggest numbers, and then look at where it's going and see is it there yet, or is it for who and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, this just general figures, just so you know. So Kickstarter is not open in many countries. It's the US, UK, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and Netherlands. So it's representing the numbers. And in the first place, I'm going to introduce the numbers from last year, 2013. See what how it's going. There was a lot of money raised on the platform between 2012 and 2013 across almost all categories of project, the way that Kickstarter is defining them. There's been a growth between the 2 years. There's been some more significant growth. In the game industry, interestingly, most of that growth is not video game, it's board games. And one, I think, category that I'm going to go into more details is technology, and it almost doubled between 2012 and 2013. So definitely, it's going well. It's growing. There's tens of millions of dollars that are injected into projects across the world through crowdfunding. This is the number of projects. It's also very interesting because you realize that for all the money that's raised through technology projects, for instance, there's not that many projects. You realize also like music and movies tend to have a smaller budget, so they have lots of projects funded, but most of them are small amounts. Yeah, so talking about 1,000 projects last year for technology. Video games was about 1,000, something like that. Then you can look at, what is the goal that people are actually asking for this different project. Kind of like give you an idea of what is the ask, how much money they ask. Because you hear about, $10 million raised from one project, but initially, most of the project, they ask for like less than $10,000. And we're looking at technology being the one category where the goals are actually pretty high at $40,000. And another important part is, so Kickstarter is an American company. Until the end of 2012, it was only open to American companies or American individuals. And they're expanding a little bit, and they open first into the UK, and then across different countries from the Commonwealth, and then the Netherlands. And it's still a vastly American platform. And there's other platforms in Europe that are developing and growing again well. But even if you look purely at the British platform, the one in British pounds, $40 million in a year is actually would make it a very big platform for the UK, probably the biggest. But it's definitely very American, and it's something that this platform in particular is a challenge that they need to diversify themselves. Then I thought I would look into the technology project specifically. This is the Web2day. So I thought it would be more relevant to you than if I would look in video games. So that's the growth of past 3 years. It's significant growth, going from like $4 million 2011 to 67 in 2013. If you look, a lot of people asking about, is there a seasonality? Is there a time in the year where there's more money coming in? So looking at purely the numbers of the result per month over 2012 and 2013. It's interesting because the Kickstarter themselves, they will say Christmas, avoid Christmas. And it's kind of the only thing that they tell people to avoid. That reflects the results for January, because the way I look at project who finishes on a given month. So if you finish in January, it's likely you had the Christmas period of during your project. But it's also something that's heavily influenced by large projects. Large projects make all those stats a bit difficult to interpret and a bit more difficult to analyze. So that big spike in August 2012, that's the UIA. The UIA raised, I think, $7 million. So obviously, in a given month, it makes a huge influence on it. But overall, it's actually fairly stable. There's no real seasonality. Trying to avoid summer is what they tend to be what common sense dictate. Same, looking at projects per month, the one who got funded versus the one who got funded. So it's kind of like success ratio. You realize that people are following the advice of Kickstarter. They don't launch that many projects during Christmas. So the ratio from successful to unsuccessful is actually very different from June, July, August, where actually it's much higher. So these are kind of like generalities, but it's yeah, I'm not sure how much more I can say about that. Sorry. So this is where I think it gets very interesting. So I'm interested in big successful projects who got lots of media coverage and tens of thousands of people supporting them. But I'm even more interested in projects that are a smaller size, from any kind of size, and understanding what is the platform doing for them. Because you could have a platform that makes like lots of projects that are raised $2, $3, $4 more million, but it could be not increasing its ratio of small projects. It would be like a platform only good for the big ones, and the small ones are kind of like not getting their share of it. And so this slide is how much money was raised per tier of project. My tiering is less than $10,000. It's only about successful project. Less than $10,000, 10K to 50K, 50K to 100K, 100K to 500K, and then project to raise more than $500,000. And clearly a vast amount of money is raised by the more than $500,000, but it's very interesting to see that actually between 2012 and 2013, there's been more money raised by those 100 to $500K dollars. There was more money raised by this kind of project between the 2 years. So it's definitely not just for the big ones. And if you look at the number of projects, you know, we went from like about 50 projects to 150 projects. You know, it's like 3 times more mid-sized project that actually got successfully funded on Kickstarter. So there's something is happening there. Something is people get used more to that notion of crowdfunding a technology project. People get more familiar with what it means, what it requires, and there's a bigger number of small projects actually get a shot at getting funded. And just, you know, last thing was looking at, you know, the project funded in terms of the numbers between the different platforms. And I know we're in France. I know Kickstarter is not open to French companies at the moment, but it's still, you know, massively American. But the ratio for successful technology project launched from the UK is actually pretty good. You know, it's like 70 projects failed, 70 successful, was successful, 148 were not successful. It's actually not a bad ratio, you know. So it's getting de-Americanized in some ways. This is the same numbers. Then quickly going into subcategories. So the way Kickstarter is working is interesting because they have the big categories like, you know, dance and video games, technology, fashion, design, all that kind of stuff. But inside those categories, they break them into subcategories, and it's interesting to see where the money is going into between those subcategories. The thing that you have to keep in mind is that those subcategories have changed 2 weeks ago, so they messed up how we were reading the data, but for 2013 it's still relevant. There's 3 subcategories. There's one called technology, which is people didn't really know how to categorize their project. One is called hardware, and the other one is called open software. Until this week, Kickstarter was not allowing people to do software product on Kickstarter that was not open software. That's changed literally yesterday or Monday. So looking at, you know, technology, the technology subcategory, you know, is not seen a big growth between 2012 and 2013. It's kind of stable. Number of projects, more money raised for like the mid-sized project again. Almost double the number of projects in that range as well, and same number of very large projects. But what is more interesting is the hardware subcategory, and this is where technology is growing for crowdfunding. And I think it talks to what people expect from such a platform. So Kickstarter as a platform is called crowdfunding against rewards. You have, you know, crowdfunding against equity, crowdfunding against loan, and crowdfunding against rewards. And in their case, they give something to people. Usually, it's the end product. And hardware is definitely something where people get more involved. They put also more money. The fact that there's a physical component increase the money per person backing you in a significant way. And there's also a community aspect to it, which is people who are enthusiastic about new hardwares, new 3D printers, new rendering, new consoles. They know about Kickstarter. They've backed 1 project, they've backed 2 projects. So they tend to be more easy to reach. I say easier, but not necessarily easy. That's another point I will make later. But definitely the biggest growth in technology was done through hardware projects on that platform. And you see that the growth in terms of total amount per category is also very significantly into that mid-size successful project. And we talk about, like, you know, going from 21 projects that funded between that, you know, 100K, 500K range to 96 over the year. So it's actually very, very significant. Looking at open software very quickly, this is something that's growing, doubled in a year, but it doubled from $1 million to $2 million. And actually, the number of projects that are actually funded on Kickstarter for open software in that category is a small number. We're talking about 5 mid-sized projects compared to the 96 from hardware, for instance. There's been one project that raised more than 500K in crowdfunding. Again, that talks to people mentality when they go to crowdfunding, and financing something that is open is a bit more counterintuitive to many people. So these are the new categories. So that's not data we have at the moment, but give it like 6 months is something we'll be able to dig into and do more refined analysis. And that's what all have added into the database to make technology a bit more refined category. Like for instance, the first time they talk about web as a category. Interestingly, right now there's a campaign that's raised more than $3 million into the web category. It's the Rainbow Reading book. Have you heard about it? People have heard about it? Yeah. It's a very interesting campaign because I think web is very difficult to raise money for as a crowdfunding project. And they definitely did a lot of things very right. So just talking about this year's trends and see if there's any influence about the past 6 months, because things move very quickly. Literally, things explode and change within a matter of a couple of months. So in March 2014, Oculus Rift, who raised a significant amount of money on Kickstarter, got bought by Facebook for $2 billion. I think you heard about it, right? Yeah, you heard about it. And there was a very strong backlash, like very, very strong. A lot of people didn't like the idea of the project they supported, that they loved, that they were very close to being bought by Facebook, specifically by Facebook. And a lot of people went into, this is the last time I'm supporting this kind of project on Kickstarter, the system is broken. People went as far as, where's my share of the $2 billion? This is a tweet from Notch, who is a famous in-development game developer who basically was at the forefront of bashing Oculus and the deal. And so there was a real question, what was the impact of Oculus being bought by Facebook and people backing hardware project, for instance, on Kickstarter? So that's, it's partial year. We are in, this is beginning of June, so we are not 6 months in, and it's already like more than half of what was done in 2013, so it's looking pretty good. And that's the monthly amount of money raised on the technology category on Kickstarter month per month, comparing 2012, 2013, and 2014. And there's been no Oculus Facebook effect whatsoever. It's been even significantly bigger than last year, months on months. So I'm not saying there's not going to be a fatigue on Kickstarter. We see that happening into other categories, specifically the one I studied the most, which is video games. There's been a slow, it's a bit slower. You can see that people are getting a bit tired of it, but it's not happening in the technology category. And I think there won't be a bubble in the sense it's not going to burst. It might slow, but it might not. It's not going to burst. I don't think so. Then quickly, I'll cover like a few basics on crowdfunding. Why I think crowdfunding is very interesting when you develop a project, regardless of what the project is. The first thing is obvious: is it supports your cash flow. It's not free money, but it's money that's damn cheap. It doesn't dilute your equity. It arrives before you have any expenditure to make to deliver what you promised. You do have some cost because running a crowdfunding campaign is quite costly. So since I've been, been obsessed with crowdfunding, I've supported very closely 2 campaigns, and I've advised maybe 20, 25 campaigns across lots of different projects, mostly video game, but not only. And definitely there's a cost to a campaign, and getting getting people attention into your project and getting them to give you money. It's a lot of hard work. But it's usually if you're successful, it's worth it. If you're not successful, it's still worth it sometimes. I can talk about that more. The other very good thing through a crowdfunding campaign is all the attention you get. Because crowdfunding campaigns are very social in the way they behave. If I have a project I like and I back and put money in, I want them to succeed. So I will talk to my friends about it. I will talk to people who have similar interests to me. And they will be like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I'll look at it. Like, for instance, I am an Oculus Rift backer. And the reason I backed it is a friend of mine told me he tried it and it was really good. And so there's like the word of mouth is massive. But going with the word of mouth is that creation of a community. You for the first time, not for the first time, it's one of the opportunities you have to create a community around your product. Again, to use the Oculus Rift example, there was a development kit. It was for people who want to program on it. And because it's a new device, it's a new peripheral you add to your computer, having support from a development community was essential for them. I think they were very happy with the money they got, but I think they were even happier to have, I think it was 30,000 people commit to get the kit and look what's inside and start developing prototype experiences and things around. So for them, the cost to create that community would have been huge, and in their case, it was kickstarted by the crowdfunding campaign and helped them a lot, kind of like crystallize the community around the product, and that's very, very valuable. There is a second side to that thing, though, and about creating community, is that if you want to have a successful campaign, you need to know where to find the people that are keen on your project. Crowdfunding campaigns are successful because of, usually, I'm making a generalization, it's like 99% of the time, because of the first 2 days. The first 2 days of a campaign is where you know if you're going to be successful or not. If you reach 20–25% of your objective within the first 2 days, you are almost sure, if you work hard, to reach your objective. If you miss those 2 days, what happens is someone comes in, look at your project, says, oh, it's been a week. They only have 15%? They're not going to make it, so I won't bother. Which is incredibly frustrating when you are a creator of the project, because the whole point of a crowdfunding campaign is like, give me your money, and if we fail, you don't lose it, you know, you will give it back. So don't just go away. But that's how people think. People think in terms of, I want to be associated with success. If I see a trend of a success, I'll give money. There's another time, so there's like 3 times in the campaign where you make most of the money. The first 2 days, the first last days, because of the way people rush into giving the money at the last minute, and the moment where you succeed. The moment you reach your objective, usually you have a small bump, which is super annoying. People don't want to give you money unless you're successful. So I hate those people, that's the worst. But you know, they give you money, so I guess at the end, we still like them. So yeah, the community aspect is very important. It's a very strong added value that you get from that. But it's also a lot of work. There's one of the presentations I do on video games specifically is I tell people, I think like 70% of the people who back a video game project on Kickstarter only backed one video game project. And it's to tell them that people don't go on the platform to find a project they like. They go on the platform because they heard about a project they like and they want to back it. So there's definitely a need to kind of like start the pump in terms of bringing people to your project and get it successful in the beginning. So the community thing is two-sided. You need to have the right hooks to find the community, you know, to know where they're hanging out, which websites they're reading, try to get covered by the right media, because this way they will come. When they come, then they can merge into your community, you can give access to your tech, you can give access to your project. That's really good. Another thing that's very, very good, I think, is it's kind of a launch. Bless you. a lot of people don't necessarily have done a launch of a project or a product in their life. Launching a crowdfunding campaign is a lot like launching. It's like launch day. It's like going live, even if it's for a dev kit or something like that. And if you have a team that's never done it, it would be better to make the mistakes on a crowdfunding campaign than on the real day where your website crashes and the specs don't work, or you realize you don't have the right community management person to communicate with the community or things like that. So it's a very good dry run for testing your capacity to launch. And I think that's something that's people who've launched Kickstarter that failed came out of that feeling like it was a great experience. Not because they failed, but because they've learned from it. And they exposed themselves to the public, they got feedback from the community, or they didn't get anything. And then they realize, maybe our product sucks, Maybe nobody wants to buy that thing. Maybe it's better we stop working on that project now than, 6 months later and a lot more money pour into it. So I think that's a very interesting learning that people got from going through that process. And it's definitely not all about the money. It's all about all those things that come together. I did put some practical considerations about running a campaign. The build it and they will come doesn't work. Don't put something on, just try stuff. If you don't put something on a crowdfunding platform, regardless of what platform it is, thinking people will find it. And that's true for Indiegogo, Kickstarter, Ulule, My Major Company, KissKissBankBank, and whoever exists in the world. The number of people they will directly bring to you is very, very small. You need to bring people to your project. There's a lot of planning to do. Usually because it's going to be like a live project, you will have lots of questions, a lot of people who have comments, and why did you use this piece of hardware rather than this piece of hardware? And are you going to ship from China or from Europe? And how are you going to deal with customs when you send your stuff? And what's the, all those questions are going to come all together. If you don't have a plan already to manage your campaign properly, you'll be overwhelmed by those extra questions, extra attention that those people who want to give you money are going to bring to you. People compare crowdfunding sometimes, like, when you do a VC round and you talk to people and try to get them to give you money, you imagine it's like that, but instead of talking to 1 or 2 people, you talk to 10,000 people, and they all have questions. So planning is really important. It's also very easy to screw your budget. A lot of Kickstarter campaigns have been very optimistic about their cost, and then they realize, well, actually, I planned my internal shipping by shipping from the US to Europe, but there's people in Australia, in Japan, in China who want my product. And then suddenly my costs are not the same. So triple checking your buffer, and then triple checking your budget and then adding some buffer is definitely something that will help you come ahead in terms of your project. And that's it for just now. And I would be happy to take any questions you have on crowdfunding. And like Magali mentioned, there's a workshop at 3:30 on the 4th floor. Questions? Hungry? You want to go to lunch? I want to go to lunch, it's okay. One question. Okay, thank you.
What European countries are most successful at crowdfunding, including on Kickstarter?
Do you want to repeat in the mic, just for everybody to hear?
Yes. Okay. What European countries are most successful at crowdfunding in Europe?
That's a very interesting question. So I looked at France specifically before coming over, and France is doing okay. There's a few mid-sized projects, like I call them, $100,000 that got funded through France. Germany is about the same level. I find the Nordic countries pretty successful, and I think at the end of the day, it's mostly depends on the project. I find that UK companies and American companies have more projects, but I think it's because they're trying more. it's interesting to see there's not as many people trying crowdfunding from continental Europe than the Nordic countries or Anglo-Saxon countries. It's also because the biggest platform doesn't allow you unless you have an entity in UK or Netherlands or the US. But I'll give you an example for the video game industry. Video game industry, until September last year, there were 2 projects coming from France. The grand total of 2. Now there's been 20, and out of those 20, there's like 3 or 4 raised more than $100,000, which is significant, which is actually against the current trend on Kickstarter for video games. So I think it's coming. One thing that I would look at, looking at countries distribution, is where's the money coming from? And on Kickstarter specifically, America. It's like 60% of the pledges I made from America for Kickstarter. The second country is the UK at 15%. Then you have Canada, and then you have Australia, and then you have Germany at 3%. And there's more money going from Australia going to Kickstarter than coming from Germany or France. France is 1.5%, is the 6th country in the list. It's half of Germany. So I think Kickstarter specifically is a great platform if you have a product you want to market to Americans. If it's a product that's very French or very European, it's not necessarily the strongest. I'm not sure there's someone who's incredibly stronger, but this is definitely not where the money is coming from. Talking to a lot of French people, me being French, about crowdfunding, there's a kind of feeling, it's not scientific, it's not data, that French people are a bit more paranoid about crowdfunding. They're a bit more scared about the model. There might be a truth to it, or it might be just because it's not as represented in the media and people don't talk as much about it. I don't know. Does it answer your question? Yeah. Another question? 1, 2? Okay, à juger. Thank you very much. And if you want to come to the 3:30 workshop, don't hesitate. We'll make it in French, I think. But good. Thank you very much.